are back, but over in Brazil this time it is Dulcin and Gormizer walking you through InControl Nation up against Fatal Ambition. Gormizer, this is a matchup between two teams over here in Brazil, one in InControl Nation that have built up chemistry after playing with each other for a couple of years now at this point. Fatal Ambition starting to build up some of that chemistry. Pickle Pepper versus Prolific, by the way, over in North America. That'll be a lot of fun to watch. But what are expectations for this matchup between your third and fifth seed?
Man, InControl, if I remember correctly, is one of the only teams that has been able to take down Parallax Gaming. Obviously not this phase, since Parallax Gaming is still up there with 0 losses. But in the past, and historically, they have been a team that has caused a lot of trouble here in Brazil for these top teams. I think Ignite and Carnage may be learning that the hard way, since they're all tied there for second in terms of win-loss. Their map plus-minus not matching up for it. So it's a team that has this history and has been doing really well. If you're Fatal Ambition, you've been struggling, right? I mean, you're on almost the opposite side, right? Instead of looking at, man, can we take down the top team? You're just trying to look down to take down a team at this point and, you know, get some wins under your belt. InControl might not be the easiest one to take down, but they're definitely a good condition for you. If Fatal Ambition are able to do something with this set and make it flourish, then things are going to be great.
Well, Jaguar Falls is where Fatal Ambition will attempt to start off their run here against InControl Nation. I think to your point, Gore, we've seen Fatal Ambition put together good sets in the sense that, you know, they'll lose these 7-point games. They just haven't quite turned that corner to consistently winning those 7-point games, so they can get there. And, you know, they have a win here over in Brazil at least, but it's doing that on a consistent basis and kind of sharpening up some of those edges that I think needs to be worked on for them moving forward. But I mean, it is bunched up over here in Brazil. 4 teams kind of really blocked off there at the top.
Well, and, you know, you have to look at it like InControl as well as Ignite and all those other teams, especially the ones that are 3 and 2, are winning off of each other, or they're bullying. I mean, you know, some of their wins, you have to look at Fatal Ambition. You mentioned they have 1 win. They got that last week against the only other team in the league right now for Brazil that doesn't have a win yet. So it's like the conversation of, you know, who are you beating? How much are you beating them by? You know, for InControl, like for map plus minus, you almost have to have this be a 3-0 if you want to continue contending with those other teams fighting for that second place spot. But if you're Fatal Ambition, you want it to be anything but. Like you said, it's maybe the Bala Mansa kind of paradigm that I guess comes through, right? Where you are taking these games, maybe you're even going to 7 points every game, maybe you're going to 5 games every set, but if you're not winning the set at the end of the day, you're not making the progress you need to. Fatal Ambition, you know, if they push if it's only 3 games and they push them all to 7, I think that's great progress. But obviously, you want to see them take some.
That's where it gets aggravating when you're getting to the 7-point games. Let's move on into the picks and bans, though. Catch up a little bit here. Vivian and Lex both taken away by InControl. Cassie, Maeve as well banned out by Fatal Ambition. So some interesting bans score alone, I think, on either side. The Lex, you don't often see that one banned out. Cassie, Maeve, not really all that much either. A lot of power still available to be picked up.
Yeah, Cassie and Maeve specifically. I like Lex, you know, I can always throw anything under the, well, that's a Brazil ban, right? And it does feel like a Brazilian ban. Lex was big here before any other region started to even mess with him. But Cassie, Maeve, like, I mean, Maeve is phenomenal. I love Maeve. I love Cassie. But they haven't really been high on anyone's tier list, have they? I mean, you've got Vivian, Victor, Andro, Corvus, all of these falling on that list probably before those two, all of which now locked in or banned out. But Ashe as well, I don't know, Victor Ashe is just a really good 1-2 punch. And even Bellini is really interested
you better
in this
pet
one.
your dog,
she's excited for this.
Chat riots at this point if you don't pet the dog. She came over to join us throughout a few picks here. Droxus and Anara now both locked in for InControl. So point tank, you know, is so important here on Jaguar Falls. Anara has been one of those mainstays throughout the year, so no surprise here from InControl Nation. I am a little bit surprised Shaolin hasn't been picked up here yet. He's been one of those top picks, especially over in this Brazilian region. Yeah. I think these guys have really latched onto that pick early and often, though not surprised with what have taken those spots. Ashe, Victor, that's a very powerful duo there for Fatal Ambition. And you get Terminus for a little point tank as well. I think Fatal Ambition have done at least job 1, and that's not completely lose fresh out of the draft just yet.
Yeah, I mean, they've been able to come through, like you said, Victor, Ashe, Maldamba, Terminus. I really like all 4 of these picks so far, and on Jag Falls, I think they're going to be able to do a lot of work. But Corvus, Andro, and Nara, you had mentioned the Shaolin. I think he could fit in well, I guess perfectly here. That's what InControl wanted to do. I think he fits in pretty well. And this is such a good draft that you could flex into something. You know, I always like to lean towards Ruckus just because my mind wants to fill in one more tank here, and I think Europe typically would like to throw something in like that. But North America and Brazil, I was trying to think of the flanks while I went through that. Ruckus was my buy time there, and Zen is the one that's left that maybe does the most. Eevee right now is on the fence for a lot of these teams as to whether or not she's worth bringing in, especially with hitscan being so prominent. You know, Victor, if this gets locked in, Tyra, that's not going to be a good game for an Eevee. It's going to be uncomfortable for a lot of it. I think Zen slots in very well here.
How about this Tyra pick, though, to round out the draft for Fatal Ambition? You talked about some of the pluses she would bring against, you know, an Eevee, some of those flank-esque type characters. What about here up against what InControl have drafted?
I like her. I think she even has a lot of flexibility, is what I should say, to be able to come through. Not a lot of mobility, but a lot of flexibility in what she's going to be able to bring. I typically look at her and immediately think tank burner because that's one of the things she does best. But when you're up against triple DPS, especially on a map like Jag Falls, you can control where your Molotov goes. If you want, you can run something like Mercy Kill, have some extra grenade shots, maybe for burst ability against some of these opposing carries that are on the other side. So I think, you know, for Jag Falls, first off, being just one of her stronger maps, she's definitely going to be able to bring the flare. It's just up to Fatal Ambition to make sure she clicks well. Some teams have struggled with that in the past, and I'm a little worried we might see that here.
Well, it is game number 1 between InControl Nation and Fatal Ambition. InControl trying to keep pace with that block of top 4 teams over here in Brazil that have really started to separate themselves, and Fatal Ambition, a team that has shown promise in the past, hasn't quite consistently been able to put those games together. So I think important set here for really both of these teams, Gore. And you look at the direct damage that Fatal Ambition is bringing to the table. They have the ability to absolutely melt through some of the targets that InControl is going to be bringing straight out to the forefront. But that Ashe, I think, is going to be very important here for Fatal Ambition as well, as far as space control and that conversation goes. It's going to be Amadeus looking to poke some early shots out. Groundford as well is going to build up just a little bit in point percentage, but Fatal Ambition grouped up and kind of forced out over to this waterfall.
They're all locked down, too. I mean, look at it. This is just wolves corralling sheep into a cage. All 4 members of Fatal Ambition are right next to each other. And while they're all starting to heal up, I mean, just look at this collapse from InControl. I mean, that was maybe textbook in execution. Pretty much how you would always want your fight on Jag Falls to go. Still good shots coming down from Mika. And that's exactly what I expect out of a team that has this much history.
You know, Gore, it's usually not a good thing when the Androxus doesn't even need to fly around and he's just kind of walking at you and shooting at you. That's rarely a good thing, and that's what Mika did throughout the first minute or so of this game. And with ease, InControl Nation locks down point number 1 here on Jaguar Falls. Fatal Ambition, not much of a pushback. It was interesting kind of the strategy that InControl were opting for there, looking to control some of that space. But again, you got this Victor and the Tyra. Granted, the Firebomb will do some good work at slowing down the push from InControl Nation. And really here, maybe, it's where InControl are going to be fighting directly into Fatal Ambition on the back. This is where Fatal Ambition have a chance on the defensive end with this Victor and this Tyra pouring out the damage.
I always dislike when you start to see a defense right here, though, and it's one of those things, it's always good for the defense, so don't get me wrong, this is great so far for Fatal Ambition, because your job as defense is nothing more than to kill 2.5 minutes. You want, like, kills, streaks, all that, it's sick to be able to get, but you want to ideally end the round with ults, and you want to kill 2.5 minutes without having to stress too much towards the very end of it. But at the same time, you know, and much like they showcase there, Fatal Ambition, you start getting these kills around the mid-fight, you're able to bounce back and fight back just enough that you burn a minute off of the clock, but you don't really get anything substantial out of it. All you've done is just buy small amounts of time, and realistically for InControl, they just got money from sitting on that payload, or I'm sorry, on the midpoint. So now they're going to be coming back with maybe another item, maybe a tier 2, considering how well that fight went. They've definitely got the credits to spend.
Well, the good news is Mika is going to get shut down by not PS1 here, and that Accursed Arm didn't really find any value with the Power Siphon soaking up most of it. So what could have been a big opening for InControl on the offensive push, largely slowed down by what Fatal Ambition are bringing to the table. Fatal Ambition have great defensive utility, I think, and assert dominance. A Dread Serpent or even fighting into a barrage. So everything looks good right now for Fatal Ambition, but you cannot lose those first picks. It's going to be a seismic crash sent up to the high ground to maybe open things up. You're headed, taken down to 400 HP. Amadeus gets a little bit too aggressive. They're going to end up getting knocked down here. Dread Serpent peels back the backline away from this fight. For the moment, Gore, that's enough to give Fatal Ambition the edge.
And hey, I mean, they've been able to hold on to it. They haven't broken into the base yet if you're InControl Nation. And there's only 20 seconds left, less than that even now. So yeah, you might be picking up some of these kills. You have ults, but you have to wonder what you're willing to expend. They've already thrown out a Seismic Crash, which is questionable to me, but even more questionable is the Reanimate from the Terminus.
And the Assert Dominance as well, and this fight is kind of getting tilted here as Ice Monkey will get another onto Groundford. It's a killing spree suddenly out of InControl Nation. It's a barrage from the back line. You have to win this defense now if you're Fatal Ambition. You've spent everything. Granted, InControl is used a lot as well. There's a crossfire ready to go from Headed. Could be the last line of defense here. Mika peeks the corner, gets the kill. Down goes RC Soldier as the Payload rounds. Potentially the final corner here. Enough damage out of Headed. He's going to lock down this Androxus off to the side. And Headed is doing absolute work here on the back line of this fight, trying to keep things separated. It's a cursed arm from the high ground. That one is going to lock Headed back into the graveyard, and now fighting back and forth behind the shield is Ash, and I'm not sure the legs are there. RC Soldier crumbles, and InControl Nation, they brute force their way into their second point.
I mean, that was amazing. I think really from InControl to pull out that many ults and still hold on. I mean, Groundford, the minute you saw that Reanimate come through, and specifically the death right thereafter, that indicates how much control a team really has over a fight. If that Reanimate comes through and Groundford's able to hold on, let's say 30 seconds, then that's still a good ult. Overall, you burnt time and forced them to play a little more uncomfortably for InControl. They killed him no problem right afterward. RC Soldier, unfortunately, hasn't had a really, really good first round either, and I think they just got caught out. Yeah, a lot of ults were thrown out on both sides, but I see a Spite that got charged up. Corvus almost has his. Ice Monkey started that by throwing out the Seismic Crash and almost has that charged back up as well. So for what you expended, you got just as much back if you're InControl.
That is going to be difficult to deal with this Inara now. Rezeal 2, Cauterize 2, those Nimble we saw in her kit there. I mean, this Inara is going to be moving and doing some good damage here. Despite that connects onto the back line. Nice shot there from King Kaiser, still undying in this game. 14 effective kills for the Xin, doing absolute work. Now being collapsed upon on the opposite side from point fight number 1. Fatal Ambition. We're going to try to backpedal here. Seismic Crash. Oh, the Dread Serpent catches out 4.
So
that's a saving grace here for Fatal Ambition. That was a losing fight through and through. Suddenly the tables have been turned. Groundford walks himself forward. Gets the kill onto Amadeus. It's the crossfire that times out here. 1 kill only for Fatal Ambition is what they have to hang their hat on. But there's a second from Groundford in this fight. And what a turnaround there from Fatal Ambition.
I mean, if you do not get something like that amount of pressure off of a 4-man Dread Serpent, then I don't know what you're doing. That being said, I think you should have been able to convert a little bit more. Luckily, they have comeback mechanic here, so that's going to stop InControl Nation from being able to get back. But, I mean, think about it. What, they got 2 kills immediately off of that Dread Serpent, and immediately, 10 seconds after it was done, they didn't really get anything from that. It just bought them the space and forced InControl to play so defensively and so scared that they couldn't do anything to get back into the fight.
Now a chance to tie the game for Fatal Ambition. What a turnaround that would be, especially after sort of a heartbreaking push from InControl Nation just 1 round to go. Sometimes that's all it takes. When I say, hey, a big Dread Serpent can turn this fight around, you don't always count on a 4-man, but this time around it is. That's going to be the early Reanimate use from Groundford. Looks like he actually got a kill on the back end of it, so suddenly the offense for Fatal Ambition is swinging more than maybe even they expected to. RC Soldier looking for the boop off to the side, ended up getting it onto Amadeus. The Assert Dominance going to get shot down out of the sky. Mika holds his ground right when they needed to, and InControl Nation slow down the push.
This is where I start to get nervous. Not only do they slow it down, but I mean, that feels like a full stop. Not PS1 makes it out alive, and you have Groundford who's respawned now. But now you have to make it back there and carry that momentum. I mean, that is a full-on stopper for what you had around that mid-fight. You were kind of keeping InControl, perpetually staggered out, at least pushed back. They were one person taking too much damage, having to fall back or die. Now you're able to get back, but can you bring the same amount of weight and find the same amount of kills that you were getting just a few seconds ago?
All right, it's going to be difficult. Fatal Ambition, they have that Dread Serpent. Maybe make it 5 this time around to give yourself a chance. on this defense. Corvus will drop his ultimate right back there behind the payload. That'll slow down Fatal Ambition, but not all that much. It's a couple of kills dropping down on the left-hand side of the defense now from InControl Nation. Roopson will get the kill onto King Kaiser as well. But the Maldamba not able to stay alive, but it might not matter, Gore. The rest of the kills still following through here from Fatal Ambition. Out of the respawn is Amadeus. The dash is right on through from Mika. The reversal is there, but won't be enough here as Fatal Ambition are going to tie this one up.
And that showcases one of the strengths of Tyra. I think if you get headed into a position like that every round, which it's going to be hard to do, but you could put him just where that firebomb is going to find its most utility, then you're going to be looking at a win there. I mean, you know, a lot of damage that can come down from that. Shreds tanks, and Ice Monkey, you know, 6-3 and 9 has stellar games so far, but I think you get to showcase how fast an Inara can truly die if you have something like a Tyra on the other side. So a really good round from them, as well as RC Soldier. I mean, the last time I looked up at RC Soldier's slash line, it was 0-4, so 3-6. A huge improvement over that. And again, from a lot of these players on Fatal Ambition, I even said this last week when we were watching them, they're such good players, and they've had such good history in the PPC and what we've seen out of them. It's almost surprising that way the first round went. And luckily, I guess they tie it up. It's just whether or not they can continue carrying that amount of force with them.
Right now is where Fatal Ambition need to close out the game. We've seen them fight back in. Now complete sort of the turnaround here and get InControl Nation on the back foot in the set. It's going to be the important turn. Not PS1 will complete the kill onto Amadeus thanks to the barrage, but Mika has found first blood in this engagement on the opposite side. King Kaiser with the well-timed flank and then the Billow to escape, but to slither away from Roopson to keep him alive. Counter up once more from Mika, and he's going to dash away, stay alive. 186 HP on this Androxus, and free points cap time now for Inara and InControl Nation. Groundford makes his way back, but the power siphon buying enough time here. Up and down he goes, but Ice Monkey will shoot him out of the sky. Overtime is on, and Fatal Ambition don't have a lot of health to move on in here. Roopson's going to have to slither himself forward, but overtime slowly melting away. The Ashe, the only one who could maybe help out, but she's way too low, and InControl Nation pull this one away convincingly.
I mean, just being able to get in there, I think that showcases the strengths of an Inara, although Terminus does bring strengths. Just walk in, sit down, and force them to, well, play awkwardly around you. And also, I think this is great, but the Entropic Breach, the ult there that comes down from Corvus, in terms of control, is phenomenal. Sometimes it's one of those ults similar to a Dread Serpent where you might not need to use it for the CC, although Dread Serpent definitely hits somebody with it, right? For Corvus, sometimes you just want to block it away. You don't want someone to stand there, very similar to how you'll see a Dread Serpent used in that position, where it's not necessarily to get the benefits of the ult as much as it is to force them to play awkwardly around it. Fatal Ambition just could not walk up to that Inara at that point. Ice Monkey has been able to kind of coast through a lot of this game pretty comfortably on this pick.
Well, it's good that Fatal Ambition were able to lock down the kill onto Amadeus there. It's an assert dominance use, but this is what we saw last time. Fatal Ambition sold out a couple of ultimates early in the defense, and then InControl Nation were able to swing towards the end and ended up finding the completed push. This time around, though, it's for the game, so Fatal Ambition may be a little bit slower on the trigger pulls than they were on the previous attempt at a defense. There was kind of Mika controlling the space here on the left-hand side that really gave InControl the advantage last time around, but this time it's King Kaiser and Ice Monkey right up Main Street are finding the kills here. Headed's got to turn around the damage, and he's able to do so, but a Dread Serpent used to try to peel out for his backliner. So that's one maybe Roopson wishes he had back. A reanimate use from Groundford right back onto the cart here with 45 seconds left. If InControl can disengage and not lose that much ground, probably worthwhile for the blue side.
As long as they can hold on to this, like you said, worthwhile for them. InControl, they have a couple of good ults to really open up the door. And Fatal Ambition, I mean, they've just been so willing to, specifically Groundford, I feel like I said this last week, so willing to throw out the reanimate whenever, that it's starting to make me wonder if I'm thinking of a different ability than he is every time he uses it. I mean, it's so good for those clutch rounds. Sometimes you have to eat a death while your ult is up in order to use it at maybe a more efficient time. So we just hope that doesn't come to bite them back.
Raj doesn't get really anything there either, so InControl Nation, they do throw out the Entropic Breach. That's going to force Fatal Ambition onto the back foot just a little bit. Mika dashing his way off to the side. A crossfire rings out from elsewhere in the engagement. It's Groundford. It's going to help out and get rid of Ice Monkey. It's a double kill suddenly for the Terminus, maybe keeping Fatal Ambition in this game, but Amadeus has gone big. It's a double kill for the Shaolin. Maxuza still alive here, but a Corvus and a Zin are likely not going to get things done. Fatal Ambition have done enough to tie up the game.
All right, Groundford. I stand corrected. I won't say anything anymore. Nothing about you. 4 kills in that last fight. Almost made it 5. As much as I want to talk about how I haven't necessarily loved all of the reanimates, I can't say anything about that performance. So you know what? You're alive. You're in position for it. You win this time. And I think that was exactly what you need if you're Fatal Ambition. Things just haven't been going too well. Again, RC Soldier was 3-6, now he's 4-9, so not a stellar round coming out from there. I think not PS1 and Headed really are getting outmatched by Amadeus and Mika, but Mika, it depends more on is he able to, or are they able to get this reversal up in time. And if so, then cool, they're going to be able to come back and win the fight, no problem. The last couple of times hasn't necessarily had it exactly when they needed it, so unfortunately this Androx has been a little easier to deal with, and that's given Fatal Ambition some windows to open up.
Fatal Ambition forces 1 to 7 points. Now it's time to win it. RC Soldier unfortunately cannot complete the Assert Dominance. The Dread Serpent's not going to find anything, much less 4 this time around for Rupton, as now the Maldamba has to slither away. There was some point capture for Fatal Ambition, but Gore, InControl Nation, they counter swing. And look at those ultimates. InControl Nation is going to have soon to be 4 once that Entropic Breach is up to complete the game.
And it's all on what they can do. That Assert Dominance, it's so far away from the objective that it might not even matter at this point. I mean, that's just not good. I don't know how to describe that one other than that. It's not going to help your team here, and unfortunately for RC Soldier, it doesn't really buy much ground.
InControl Nation may be slow playing this one. Headed grabs the kill, but it's the spider around the side. That connects onto Headed. Groundford can only look so many directions here. King Kaiser has found the damage, and unfortunately, Rubson will end up falling here. InControl Nation looks like they've done just enough to stay alive here in game number 1. Fatal Ambition, though, still a thread of hope. But that one crumbles as RC Soldier does as well. Overtime expires, and InControl Nation take it in 7.
Now, do I think having an Assert Dominance on the point there is going to change the outcome? At the end of the day, probably not. Maybe buys you some time.
Might help.
Definitely disruptive, but I don't think it's going to win you the game. Now, like you said, would definitely have helped a little bit maybe to have it over there. But I also think you have to go back a couple rounds to look at this. How often can you expect to get a 4-man, almost perfect Dread Serpent every single time? Not often, if at all, so I'm not too upset with what Fatal Ambition were able to bring. I think they had a lot of very stellar moments. It's just, again, consistencies in those moments that are going to make the big difference. Mika was just on a tear, and unfortunately they didn't seem to be able to answer either the Zin or the Andro consistent enough to really shut them down.
Yeah, I wonder how much sort of lack of mobility maybe plays into this as well. I mean, Andro and Zin just flying around, and suddenly you're a Tyra and a Victor sort of rooted in place. And that direct damage just couldn't keep up with maybe some of the mobility that InControl Nation were bringing to the table here. I think Mika had a phenomenal game. This Androxus was consistently hitting those shots, forcing out Assert Dominances at maybe unconventional times. And that one starts off this final fight. So RC Soldier attempted to use the Assert Dominance earlier, and then did end up having to use it a few minutes later, but off to the side. So small moments that maybe add up to sort of a big outcome here. Has to be frustrating for Fatal Ambition. Another 0.7 that doesn't go their way, but InControl happy to turn that one around. And Gore, you know, the slash lines, I think, tell us a good story here. Amadeus doing a lot of killing, but also a lot of dying. I think Ice Monkey had a very quiet, good game on the Sonara, 10, 4, and 16.
Ice Monkey was phenomenal. I think the Sonara went exactly what you wanted it to do. One round, I believe it was round 2, ends up getting about 3 deaths, and then after that, he died once throughout the rest of the game. You're absolutely happy with that. And so, you know, the turnaround and the control that Sonara was able to do, plus 77,000 damage. I mean, that's up there with some of what we'll see. You know, granted 0.7, but that's typically DPS territory. So very solid in terms of damage and control. Also did a great job of locking down Terminus and Ash whenever they were around. I think Ice Monkey played the Sonara pick pretty much to the note in terms of finding control and all of the tanks that were in the game, making it just, again, more difficult for Fatal Ambition to really find a way onto the board.
There's about a 60,000 healing difference as well for InControl Nation, so Max Souza certainly pulling his weight in game number 1 as well. Splitstone Quarry for map number 2. Definitely a good map that maybe holds some similarities in parts to Jaguar Falls, but ultimately it's that ranged battle up top on these mid-fight score that I think makes a big difference, and maybe where we'll start to see some variety from game 1 in the picks and bans.
I'm wondering, Cassie Maeve was banned out last time around, and honestly, I like both of those picks on this map. I think Maeve maybe more so than anybody. I love some of these flanks and what they've been able to open up in the past. And I like that, at least from what I can tell here, InControl are one of the few teams that are running it consistently enough that it deserves to be banned. I think Fatal Ambition forced to ban that out leaves you almost guaranteed something open if you're InControl. A Corvus, a Genos, a Victor, what have you. I mean, even if they let this Vivian through, they'd be the ones who ended up getting it. And we just saw, Fatal Ambition got Victor Ashe last time around, and we were talking about how great that seems as a return to picks, but it didn't do much there. I like both of those picks here, but I don't know if they're the end-all, be-all. You could grab Corvus, Kinessa, Victor, any of the lot, and InControl definitely still feel in control of it.
I'm glad you say Kinessa and Victor there, because you take away the Strix here if you're InControl. You leave one of those snipers open, and you still prioritize this Corvus higher than that confirmed long-range damage in the Kinessa. And I think smart here from Fatal Ambition. Ice Monkey was near infallible in game number 1 on this Inara, so get that one off the table, give your front line a little bit of extra pressure, the ability to stay alive just a little bit longer there. So a good start here for Fatal Ambition. And then a Buck. We have seen a lot of Buck gore, but it's largely been here on Splitstone Quarry. That dive potential to the high ground, great at sort of slowing down some of that backline damage.
I love Buck on this map. And so I have to preface what I'm about to say with, I think Buck is a phenomenal pick on this map. Do I think he's your top 3? Not at all. I think you could have waited at least another slew of picks there. Again, you're looking either maybe you don't want the long range, maybe you don't want Kinessa, but Victor, Andro, both still available, both kind of higher on the tier list overall. Honestly, I might even steal up and swipe up a Grover before I'm thinking of Buck here, just because of priority. I think he's someone that's going to be beneficial to Fatal Ambition, and I do think that there's a slight note of maybe trying to strip that away from InControl, because I think they have a couple of good Buck players on that roster as well. So maybe it's a double-edged sword, and there's a reason you have to pick it up that early. But I also think that you having to forego Andro Victor to grab it is making me a little worried for your draft already. I think Inara's great, I think Maldamba's great, and I think Buck can make this map work, but you really got to sell me on these last two to really win me over if you're Fatal Ambition.
Well, there's a way I was wondering, often we see Buck and kind of Andro going toe-to-toe with one another, and up to that point, Victor would have been largely free and clear to fire away, provided that Andro is doing his job and slowing down the Buck from that backline dive, and vice versa. Buck is going to be attempting to slow down Androxus and some of that high ground dive. Now the Kinessa. Gore, you look at that range battle, Victor up against that Kinessa. Do you feel a real advantage there at one poking out the other?
Well, so this is always going to sound weird, just because I have to preface that it depends on their aim, right? If this Kinessa's hitting headshot and has gone Eagle Eye, Victor doesn't exist this game, but it's consistency of those, right? Are you going to give us a Rock Monkey Ricotta-esque performance, or are you going to give us, I'm trying to think of somebody that I could throw into the bus, and I can't, because we've had some stellar players. The only ones that ever pick Kinessa are hitting these headshots. So, I have hopes for Fatal Ambition there. And I think against Andro and Victor, it's going to be solid. But I also think they both have their safety nets. I think Victor specifically is going to be the easiest of all of the picks on InControl to try and burn down with Kinessa. Otherwise, Fernando has shield, Zen has billow, Andro has his dashes that are just going to be harder to track. Corvus as well has good disengage in his teleport. Victor can just sprint, and it's pretty easy to read. So for the most part, I think Kinessa should take that matchup. But it also it's right there on a pin.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of that's purely on a one out poking the other sort of standpoint, but the rest of the 4 in-game need to do their job to make their backliner more comfortable and the enemy's backliner uncomfortable. That's what Splitstone Quarry brings, and that's where we are headed for game number 2. We'll see if InControl can pull themselves one game away from taking this set, or if Fatal Ambition can turn around some of those 7-point woes and tie up this set at 1. Some interesting picks rolled through there right towards the end. I think notably the Lex and the Fernando maybe surprised me somewhat. We started to see this rise in Fernando with the Aegis card of course, or talent rather, of course, being viable. And the Lex though, what do you think about Lex here on Splitstone Quarry? We don't often see Lex, much less here on this map.
I think giving yourselves another hit scan to shoot with is always going to be beneficial. I also think again, Fatal Ambition, this is a team that has liked Lex, and Brazil as a whole have liked Lex a lot. Regardless of where he was realistically in the meta, they'd still pick him up. And I think having that execute is going to become very helpful for them. Again, Kinessa maybe hitting like the 1-2 shot, Lex able to finish him off in the later rounds. But I don't know about his one-on-one potential. I think it does give them the edge up on this Andro, though.
I mean, there has been almost no time for Ice Monkey to be able to contest on this point. His shield got immediately eliminated. Then the rest of the fights have gone the way of Fatal Ambition. Only 1 kill on the board. That's Mika on the Sandroxus, who ended up falling first overall here. So suddenly, InControl Nation, they need to press down on the gas maybe a little bit quicker than what they were expecting. At 78% already is Fatal Ambition, controlling space through and through. That's a whirl right on through from the Xin. That's King Kaiser. Off to the side is RC Soldier and Mika doing battle as well. Stepping off the point just for a moment is Fatal Ambition. That's going to build up 12% for InControl Nation. RC Soldier and Mika continuing to sort of poke shots at one another. This battle is so important in protecting the backline, but King Kaiser, he's found the flank. 6 HP on Groundbird. It's not going to help him, though. It's a double kill from King Kaiser. RC Soldier will pick up one as well, and suddenly the script has been flipped with InControl Nation on the point.
And look, that's the kind of turnaround you need. Until the Sonara's back, no one is going to feel safe standing on that point. And as much as that barrage, gets canceled after 1 shot, I actually think that was really good. You force Kinessa to fall back, you lose a lot of that pressure Fatal Ambition would have had there on the point. That keeps your Fernando alive just a little bit longer.
Just stepping into the Dread Serpent is Amadeus, but the Dread Serpent is going to be enough to buy a couple of kills now for Fatal Ambition, and maybe just point number 1. Ice Monkey has to dash himself away. Overtime is going to melt down, and Fatal Ambition have won point fight number 1 here. Some well-timed picks. That left side battle just went the way of Buck there towards the end, and that sort of opened the floodgates.
I think I'm not giving them enough credit. I think this Buck and this Lex have absolutely done what they needed to, and even though I didn't like it being up there in the 3rd pick, I think so far, compared to what the Andro has been able to bring, as well as the Xin, they're head and shoulders above what we're seeing out of InControl Nation right now. They've been winning the trades more consistently, and even though that one finally goes the way of Mika, it is not the same performance we got to see in Game 1 on Jack Falls. It's definitely a slower ramp for this Andro, if it is getting ramped at all.
A bit of a split fight here for Fatal Ambition. A couple were looking at Mika, who had found his way around the backside, so there was not much follow-up on that seismic crash out in the front line. So InControl Nation have slowed this one down, bought some time. Finally, PS1 goes down. So right back up to the high ground goes InControl Nation. Gore, I like sort of the slow play maybe of InControl on this defense. Oftentimes you'll see teams really press down on the gas after just 1 pick, try to push out the enemy team, and then it's the counter swing back that slows them down. Now we're starting to see a little bit of it, but I think smart not to fully pursue back onto Fatal's side of the mid.
It's that question of, where are you getting, like, you look at Maldamba right there. Incredibly low health, unable to be in the fight, unable to show his head. And moments like that where you get that technical knockout, right? You're not in the fight, even though you're not back in base dead. So you win a little bit of an engagement, but maybe not the full thing. For Fatal Ambition here, I think being able to take things like that are a huge win. Here you lose Groundford, but you picked up 3.
But then sometimes maybe if you're in control, you need to fight on the front foot, otherwise you're constantly backpedaling, and Fatal Ambition will gladly take those engagements. It's a full 5 sweep all at once. And now Fatal Ambition, a brilliant opportunity to go up 2-0 here on Splitstone Quarry. InControl have all ultimates except that Entropic Breach. Fatal Ambition in a similar spot, except 1 less than their counterparts with 20 seconds left here. Buck Wild popped. Really won't find much value. Instead, RC Soldier is going to end up going down. The 3-man collapse for InControl Nation will see to it that the Buck is not able to participate for the next 10 or so seconds with the long walk back to this engagement. 10 seconds left. It's going to be maybe on not PS1 to melt down some of those health bars with a numbers disadvantage for the time being. It's a grenade up and over. is going to force back just a little bit of that pressure here. Headed at half HP. Mika losing out this trade. Suddenly Lex wants to get aggressive, but immediately moves himself back. Watch out, Buck has jumped his way into the back line, but King Kaiser there for support, and Wake Up Amadeus stays alive, says goodnight to RC Soldier. Grenade through the opening window here in the final burst to finally get rid of Headed. InControl Nation, they're winning this trade, and they will win their first point.
They only had to really use a Cursed Arm for that. Everything else almost charged back up, or has charged back up. I think Immortal is going to change this round immensely there for Ice Monkey. 2-2 and 5, not really a bad game so far, but the Fernando definitely struggling from what we saw last game in the Inara for Ice Monkey. So that's where I want to see maybe the biggest change, but you also had to look at these flanks. I mean, everybody's got 4 kills, it feels like, on InControl, save for the front line and support. But I kind of need to see Mika step up a little more, and the same thing for King Kaiser. Although King Kaiser had a phenomenal round, I think it is easy to go back and maybe meme on them as someone who used to just play a ton of Moji and do really well at it. Has this Xin locked down and has been playing it very well these last 2 games. But for him and Mika and the team to really excel here, they have to step up even further. Not just King Kaiser, but Mika maybe more so.
Yeah, it's not the same presence from the Xin and Droxus combo that we saw in game number 1. Except maybe there on the defense, that sudden burst mobility slowed down Fatal Ambition enough. Seismic Crash to start off the mid-fight here. That's going to lock down King Kaiser, the dash away from Ice Monkey just to save his life for a little bit longer, but it's the same story, different round, but maybe the difference now is that Amadeus has barraged down onto not PS1. That's going to force Inara now off the point as InControl Nation will swing back.
This is a good vantage point as well. It's not often you get to see anyone stand on bleachers this aggressively, but this is exactly what I want out of a Victor, because you can get angles like that. I mean, your supports think they're safe, your tanks, that's where they retreat to when they think they're safe. And so if Amadeus is able to find positioning like that, even if it's only for a little bit, it opens up an advantage point for InControl that wouldn't exist otherwise.
Kaiser as well is now going to find the pick on the Headed. You got to attempt to not get fully staggered out here if you're Fatal Ambition, but that's what's happening. InControl Nation finding these individual picks in these lopsided numbers engagements, but now back to full strength is Fatal Ambition. It's an Immortal for Ice Monkey that might make the difference here on the mid-fight. Only the law now for Fatal Ambition to save this mid, and a Cursed Arm and an Immortal on the opposite side. 90% for InControl Nation, so the time is on their side. An Immortal into the bleacher side. Groundford so low here. One final shot's all they need, but they're not able to finish off the Inara just yet. Finally they are, but Amadeus has to dive into the back to get there. King Kaiser walks into the Dread Serpent, and now Fatal Ambition back in control.
And that's just unfortunate. I mean, King Kaiser, that's maybe 0.5 seconds of a difference, right? If he hesitates and stagger steps just 1 second there, then he is going to be able to find himself not only still alive, but maybe still contesting this buck. But now, I mean, look at that. Fernando half health before he can even touch the point. Souza goes down. You don't have a lot of healing. You don't have a lot of pressure. InControl don't have anything to fight with.
Suddenly not PS1 has now tilted the scales right on back. Headed has as well. Ice Monkey has no HP, and another mid-fight goes the way of Fatal Ambition. The fight back was there, Goran, sort of the mid for InControl Nation, but they just a little bit too far forward. The Dread Serpent, I think, finds some good value here.
Yeah.
And not PS1, I don't know if the Kinessa has been mitigated enough. I don't think the dive onto that backline has been consistent enough, and it's been sort of a field day for the Kinessa.
And this is actually one of the conversations I was thinking about when we were in Picks and Bans, because I was trying to decide which one would I rather see. Would I rather have Victor or Kinessa if I've banned out the Strix? And I think Victor is going to give you more all-round fights. Like, he's definitely going to be better for your offense and defense with the payload, especially in this area where we see Fatal Ambition fighting. But they're not struggling with 2 flanks. They don't need their Kinessa here right now, and they're getting a lot of progress done. So it does make me wonder, if you're going to ban that sniper, how much weight are you giving to the other one? Because right now, not PS1 has been a huge factor on these mid-fights.
Oh, triple kill for Ice Monkey to slow down the offensive push from Fatal Ambition. The last tick of damage came after Ice Monkey was already in the grave, but InControl Nation, thanks to some smart plays there by the front line and the rest of the squad, will give themselves another fighting chance here at this mid. The card had already made up so much ground that things were looking dire for just a moment, but 4-man Dread Serpent in game 1 kind of helps turn things around. A triple kill from a Fernando. You know, the big multis are important here in this set and will continue to be so. Amadeus is going to have to think long and hard about where he wants to position himself here. We know that not PS1 on this Kinessa is going to be lurking just around the corner once that teleport is going to fully transition the Kinessa exactly to where she needs to be. That's right back up to the high ground here. Not a bad bit of placement for the Victor. Toss out a grenade, find some good burst damage as well. Slow down Fatal Ambition, maybe look for a barrage. Sort of soften up some of that front line. It's half HP on basically everyone now from Fatal Ambition. This is where InControl can maybe choose to press down the gas and they get the kill onto Headed, sort of leaving Groundford off on his own.
And being able to lock down Groundford has been almost essential here for InControl Nation. Once he goes down, I mean, that Inara is a huge staying power here for an offense. Buck is tanky enough, but I don't think he's going to be able to withstand an onslaught from InControl Nation, at least not for a while. And so they might have lost it there, but they're getting a lot of kills here for a team that should be falling back.
That's right, that was a winning fight there from InControl, and now maybe it's Fatal Ambition. They're going to grab themselves their third point. It's a Dread Serpent into the front line. Slow down InControl. 5 seconds is right where InControl Nation need to slow things down. You're going to have to trade out somebody. Somebody's going to have to get down there and reset overtime. You're not going to have Ice Monkey back just yet. Somebody has to move in. Somebody has to get there, and they're able to do so. Mika throws out that accursed arm, gets the kill onto Groundford. RC Soldier will find a couple, but it's not enough. Wow, Fatal Ambition win that fight score by all metrics except the one that counts. And that's the points on the board where InControl find themselves tied.
That's almost nerve-wracking. You know what? Everything that went wrong for RC Soldier last game seems to be getting made up for this game around. I mean, 11-4-4, that Ash, you can forget about it. It has all been about this Buck. But you do have to question some things, right? Robson has had maybe the best Dread Serpents I've gotten to see out of Moldamba lately. I mean, that last one on Jack Falls was great, but on this map, they've been opening up a lot of the door. This Moldamba has been pretty much the reason we've gotten to see Fatal Ambition continue fighting. But they spend so much. I mean, you have 3 ults, almost 4 ults, because let's go ahead and say 52% on a Victor, that's going to get charged to 100 incredibly fast, versus Fatal Ambition that only have the Lexecute on the other side. So I just don't know if it's going to be enough for them to continue winning in the path that they have.
Yeah, I think Rupson has had himself more of a complete game. Yeah, the one massive highlight in game number 1, but I think this Moldamba has been doing a lot better here, sort of holistically, in game number 2. Watch out for this flank from Headed. On the backside of King Kaiser, who's quite low here. The slide off to the side, the Billow, that's going to time out, but not enough for Headed to get the kill. RC Soldier, unstoppable. As you hear our fine announcer say there, as Mika will end up going down. Headed dashes his way to the back line here. Ice Monkey wants to finish off the kill, but King Kaiser completes the collapse from the other side. It is now 12-66 as InControl get themselves back onto the point, but you haven't whittled down any of this health bar on the Inara.
I mean, that is, again, it's been like the key strat, where it's not too difficult to isolate. When Groundford is as phenomenal as a frontline as they are, you have to be able to get up there and deal with them and eliminate them as fast as possible. But again, it maybe comes back to this support play that has just been so solid from Rupson to keep anyone and everyone on this team alive. It's been ridiculous how well this Moldamba's been working.
Oh man, another Dread Serpent. That's just to lock down Mika. Now there's no Androxus. It's an Immortal used as well, but only saves the life of Ice Monkey. These next trades are going to be so important. Unable to finish off the kill onto the Kinessa. So InControl Nation maybe feel like they got away with one there. Amadeus, though, finds the final shots onto RC Soldier. They're going to pull back the numbers onto their side here. Keep things in the balance. Seismic crash down. That eliminates Ice Monkey here from this fight. And Fatal Ambition absolutely are going to run away with point number 3 here. There's going to be some contests down the stretch. But Headed is absolutely on fire, and Fatal Ambition a chance to win the game.
Now, it works out for him. And I think it was pure reaction, and this is at this point it's just me nitpicking for anything that could go wrong. But that Dread Serpent feels like it could have maybe gone to something other than Mika. Mika was already stunned and felt locked down there. So maybe it could have been used, but hey, they still win the point, so it doesn't matter, and it's already at 52%, so it's going to charge back fast enough. They will have it for any crucial moments during the push. And I think that's good on Fatal Ambition to have that kind of awareness as to when they can use their ult, especially in that amount of control, to make sure things keep going their way. Even more so on Headed. If you win this boxing match with Headed, or with Mika, I should say, you are going to be able to start tearing through the defense of InControl like it's nothing.
That timing was brutal. Headed had the flank, but just not the positioning. Ice Monkey ends up dropping. Here, he was sort of off on an island all on his own. Max Souza will get the kill on the Headed, but now Groundford has 2 tense moments now for InControl Nation. Sort of Mitigated are both teams here, missing 1 or 2 members at least each, but Fatal Ambition continue to make up this ground. 1 minute and 20 seconds left. Payload not far off at all. And now Not PS1 has gotten the kill on Tamika, Groundford low. I think InControl have to finish off this kill, but the healing absolutely massive this time around from Rubson and the rest of Fatal Ambition doing absolute work here. Concentric Breach used on the back line as well. InControl Nation trying desperately to pull themselves back in. Maybe it's the Dread Serpent now that opens up the door, but this one not connecting on all that much. Immortal use from Ice Monkey, gonna slow down this fight for InControl Nation, keep them nice and topped off, and Rubson forced now to slither away. 50 seconds left. Gore and Fatal Ambition may be sensing an opening.
I mean, they have what they need in order to seal the deal. They've already opened it up again. Blex, maybe the one that can get that last little bit of burst damage, but it's so important to stay alive here. And as much as I like to say this, Moldama's been doing a phenomenal job, it's hard to keep 5 people alive permanently the way that Rubson has been doing. And unfortunately, it all seems to come to fruition here. InControl, they get rid of 3. There's still 20 seconds left, which makes me think, I don't know, on this map with that stagger, it feels like it might end there, but there could be that small window of opening for overtime.
I'm surprised here that InControl Nation are giving up this much ground. I mean, they're effectively going to let Fatal Ambition walk right back onto this card here. Groundford's going to be half HP and will end up going down anyway, so it does pay off for InControl Nation. But I'm surprised they even give Fatal Ambition the chance to get on back. But game 2 and another .7 here, Goremizer. Fatal Ambition, they got to win it. They got to win this one, or else Tilt is out in full effect, I think, moving into game 3.
I think, yeah, even more so because you've been winning in terms of the economy. Everything's going in your favor. Yeah, every mid-fight going in your favor. This could be... otherwise, it's Ice Mine's syndrome, and nobody wants that. Not a single person wants that. But yeah, you can even see it there. About 25-ish, maybe 30 credits between the bottom of Fatal Ambition and the top of InControl. And you can see where that's getting invested. You know, they finished their cauterizes, their wreckers, etc., and they've been able to afford a deft hands there for RC Soldier, just as like a flourish buy. Master Riding 1 for Groundford to help get back into the fight. I love where they're spending their extra little amounts of credits, and it's giving them exactly the edge they need over InControl to, at least as of now, eke out a lead.
You sort of figure as the game goes on, the Buck is going to slow down once the cauterizes slow down the restore, but hasn't quite been that way up to this point. Buck has been absolutely handling, I think, Mika on the right-hand side of these engagements on the mid, but InControl Nation much better off this time around, really for the first mid-fight yet. It's InControl that are far out ahead of the percentage right off the bat. Headed drops down, turns around the kill. Ice Monkey stays alive here, 63% for InControl Nation, so even though you're going to lose this small engagement, you built up enough padding to give it another go.
There's always these small moments where you have to decide between whether you want to die or if it is going to get you staggered, what you win, lose. Ice Monkey there dies just a little behind the rest of his team, and now that's making it awkward. They've matched that 63% for your Fatal Ambition, so you have even more pressure to start to perform here. And unfortunately, again, this Victor hasn't been doing much, needs to get some damage online to get that barrage available.
Ice Monkey needs to go now. There is an Immortal on the backside, and it's going to get used here to counter out all of the ultimates Fatal Ambition had. Are starting to get swung here. Not PS1 able to stay alive through the barrage. That would have been a losing fight for sure for Fatal Ambition, but InControl grabbing the kills nonetheless. Headed RC Soldier both down. Not PS1 in charge of the damage-dealing duties from here on out. Groundford down to half HP. Rubson trying his hardest to keep his point tank alive, but overtime is gonna slow down. InControl Nation, they do it again, and it looks like this .7 game is gonna go the way of InControl once more once overtime expires.
I had to wait to let it find out. Finally, Moldamba lands there, but a little bit too late, unfortunately for him. I think a lot of what they do there for InControl is great. I think the timing works out for them. Yep. I felt a little awkward. You look up at that Victor and you're like, dude, you're taking shots already and you're at 84%. Like, you need to get this ult. It really does come down to a phenomenal Immortal. And this is a very weird way to paint it, but an Immortal on the point that turns that Headhunter Kinessa popped into nothing, so she has to look elsewhere. She's not looking down at the point or at the Victor who shows his head, and at that point finishes off getting his ult, drops the barrage, forces everyone then on Fatal Ambition to start playing a little more defensive, and from there it was just take their footing, keep them tripped up. Don't let them find their center anymore, don't let them find their core, anything like that to make sure they cannot find solid ground underneath their feet. And from that point forward, it was just stagger them. Find a kill, find an opening, stay on the point, seal the deal.
And you know, I'm glad we're highlighting King Kaiser a little bit here. I think now the Xin a couple games in a row has certainly found its value. It wasn't as flawless maybe as what we saw in game number 1. The Xin and the Androxus absolutely faced their challenges so far this game. I mean, I would argue up until literally the final mid-fight, none of those flank one-on-ones were going the way of InControl Nation. That was really what was giving Fatal Ambition those big advantages throughout a lot of the mids. But they turn it around there towards the end, and I think as well this Fernando Gore and some good highlights out of Ice Monkey here this game. Though it wasn't always an InControl side, the Fernando was able to go toe-to-toe with the Inara quite well.
Yeah, and even though, again, didn't necessarily hold their own for the first however many points, Ice Monkey goes 11, 9, and 11. Like, it did incredibly well here for what you expect out of your front line. I mean, typically, like, 7 and 12 for Groundford, that's not bad. That's a great slash line for your front line. But Ice Monkey has been maybe above and beyond in terms of impact so far these last 2 games. Even in terms of damage numbers, being able to put that out there. Of course, Amadeus runs away with it, but that's what you expect from a Victor. Mika didn't necessarily get the cleanest game on this Andro. I think InControl at this point have picked it up and do have good Andro plays, but it definitely kind of feels like, oh, this is tier list, let's pump it in there. At least that game, it came off a little bit more like that. Depending on the next map, which Fish Market, you could easily run him here, but this is the one where, you know, everything's topsy-turvy, shuffle it, call the Mad Hatter, we're going into Wonderland, things are going to be different.
Yeah, and really flips things around, especially around those point tank jobs. You want somebody with a little extra survivability. I mean, I don't think Fernando and Inara are necessarily going anywhere. As far as survivability goes, the health pool is just too big on both of them, especially with maybe an Immortal for the Fernando. At this point, I'm predicting picks, which is never a safe thing to do, but I don't imagine Inara goes unpicked here in this one, especially on Fish Market. Though, Gore, it is difficult in the sense that you're sort of being looked down on in this bowl. So a lot of teams will opt for sort of skirmishy team fighting elsewhere and then take up that point once they've maybe won the fight, depending on how you want to play things. Strix is going to get banned out here, and maybe that makes some sense here for Fish Market.
Yeah, I think this is a map where snipers have been able to have some play, and you know we've seen things like Kinessa and Strix be prominent in the past, so it's not surprising to see him banned away. But again, you know, I'm thinking hit scans when it comes down to it. Shaolin has been very good lately on this map. I like Maeve and Eevee still. I kind of like. I'm going to keep mentioning Maeve banned out again by Fatal Ambition, but I like Eevee, and I think she can bring a lot. There's a lot of flanks that are maybe getting glanced over so far here. But anyone that can make you turn your head is going to be solid. But for InControl, I mean, it's been Corvus 3 games in a row. Or 2 games in a row, now 3, as they pick this one up for first pick. I can't imagine that they're going to have much issue picking that up. If Fatal Ambition don't take it, I could see another Andro in their future. Maybe an Inara if they can get their way.
Well, now the Corvus has out-healed the Moldamba in back-to-back games by at least 30,000 healing down the stretch, so definitely strong numbers from InControl. The damage number's a little bit lower than what Moldamba has been providing, but I suppose to be expected there. So I think a strong pick for InControl Nation. Definitely have seen mixed prioritization, I think, of this Corvus over recent weeks, but definitely shows its strengths here in the hands of InControl Nation. Definitely found its value up to this point. About as tried and true as it gets, though, to start off, Gore, here for Fatal Ambition, the Victor and the Inara, they're very, you know what you're getting. You're getting great damage from a Victor, and you're getting sustainability from an Inara. Not much to leave up to guessing, to chance there. So I think Fatal Ambition have got to be happy with that.
Literally no bluff, right? Like all cards are on the table, face up. You can read them and weep when Victor and Inara are locked in. But Corvus, Leon, Buck, again, Buck is one of those hit or miss picks, but I think from what we've seen, he can absolutely make it work, specifically on Fish Market. I think it's another map for him that goes very well. And honestly, for InControl, this is the kind of composition, you know, you don't see him often, and I think Khan probably isn't as much in the conversation lately as maybe he deserves to be, or maybe he's gone for a while and we can be happy about it. But if you got Khan Ash as like the last 2 picks for InControl, that would be a stellar draft to me. If you just got Ash plus somebody, I think I would love that. I love the off-tank play on this map and what they can provide, especially when keeping up with something like an Inara, Victor, Cassie. It would be pretty easy to overwhelm them with damage.
Now, I wonder where Fatal Ambition round out this draft, because we've seen this style throughout the first 4 from them. Game 1 was a little extra off-tank thrown in there. Game 2 was a little extra flank, a little extra roundabout damage with the Lex. So flexibility is definitely, I think, a key here with the final pick for Fatal Ambition. InControl Nation are going to end up going back to that Fernando. Gore definitely found its value for Ice Monkey. Triple kill, some good damage and survivability in Game 2. Do you think it works here still on Fish Market?
Yeah, again, control. When it comes down to Cassie, Victor, it's going to be very easy to make them uncomfortable if you're a Fernando. And your shielding is just going to be solid. They don't really have anyone that kills shields easily on the side of Fatal Ambition. And so that is going to already open things up. But Q him when he's needed, right? Something that can go through a shield at least is that execute. So, you know, being able to find the law in the right moments will lock down Fernando. But, yeah, your Lex, you know, between you, Cassie, Victor, you're committed to Leon, Buck, Andrew. There's not going to be a lot of time to pay attention to this Fernando. And so unless they just have some stellar pop-offs for Fatal Ambition, this feels like another InControl game, especially after the way Game 2 went. I mean, it's hard not to vote for him.
I mean, InControl, they're not hiding what they want to do. They have these double mobile flanks and then one character that sits back and pours out the damage. Fatal Ambition kind of... You know, Cassie, I suppose, a little bit of a flex there, can sit back and do damage, but also somewhat mobile, able to roundabout move quite fluidly throughout some of these engagements. So it'll be interesting to watch kind of which mindset maybe takes the day here on Fish Market. Fatal Ambition have pushed us to 7 in back-to-back games, but it's InControl Nation that have won that 7th point up to this one. Game number 3 here for InControl Nation versus Fatal Ambition. And Fish Market, what a weird way to round things out. A map that we started to see a couple of times over recent weeks, but not one of the overwhelming, obvious picks that we so often see.
Still have to get it out of my mind when I see this map locked in to think, well, it is an Envy-based map because, you know, you don't get to see those guys play it as often. But they were the only team for the longest time that was actively picking Fish Market. And once you figure it out, and, you know, normally we saw it for off-tanks, I think it works well with the triple DPS as well. It's the Wild West. It might be a Fish Market, but it really is just, you know, throw what you have at the wall.
Wow.
See if it sticks, and if it does, then it's working well. But tanks, they don't tend to fare well.
They sure don't. And this time around, Ice Monkey's going to be the first one to go down. But Amadeus trades out a kill onto RC Soldier, and now a second onto Roots, and suddenly InControl Nation feeling aggressive after it was Fatal Ambition that garnered the large part of the first bit of percentage here. Headed is going to get collapsed upon by Ice Monkey. Back from the grave is this Fernando. Move back towards the point now, but instead they're just going to leave Max Souza there to spread out some of the healing. Ice Monkey takes up the mantle now, 60% for InControl Nation, Fatal Ambition. Still one last leg to stand on here in this first mid-fight. Around the backside, one flank being looked at here. That's King Kaiser. Ice Monkey dashes himself away. Unable to find the kill there. It's a one-for-one trade, though. Amadeus gets one and also ends up falling down. Back behind his wall is ground for here. And Nara forced off the point, though. Headed, maybe the saving grace now for Fatal Ambition to save his frontliner. The first ultimate swings through. That's an enlightenment from InControl Nation. Doesn't find its value, and Fatal Ambition are going to be able to walk themselves back to the point.
And again, it's just been so well played from them, at least in terms of re-aggression. But it's just holding on to it right now that's got me a little nervous. Mika, much more return to Game 1 performance so far on this Andro. It's scary.
Ooh, the accursed arm. Oh, he doesn't have the angle. Just catches the head twice. From not PS1, he did have the angle. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Through the Dread Serpent, though. Amadeus gets feared away, stays alive. Reversal just in case. This is all just for the tug of war that happens after the point cap. Because InControl Nation, they stay alive long enough, and Gore, really the flanks get it done there. And really this Androxus pulled some weight there towards the end, and InControl Nation go up 1.
I mean, both of the big swings for InControl Nation were spearheaded by Andro and his revolver, just making sure things went their way. And again, just finding that little bit of head that you're able to connect with on your ult to make sure you get a kill there. It just opens up so much. And even then was still maybe, what, 10 feet, if not less, from getting feared off the map from just a stellar sequence of plays from Fatal Ambition. Still, with an Immortal, this payload's been moving fast as well for Fish Market. I mean, they're about to make it up the hill.
Amadeus almost saved there by Ice Monkey, the dash. Just not in time. Groundford picks up that kill here. Yeah, right, on Fish Market. It's linear. There's literally one place to go as far as moving that cart forward, so this is where, and now why we're starting to see it slow down. Fatal Ambition need to hope that they're able to hang on, because Gore, it's sort of the opposite on the other end. Once InControl get up and over this hill, maybe the advantage starts to flip towards the pushing team.
Yeah, I mean, you're in, what I like to describe as the fishbowl at that point, right? The rim, all of the high ground goes in favor of InControl, or best case scenario for you, you're fighting on par with what they have, and at hit scan, especially with the shots they're fighting on InControl, they're not too worried. Unfortunately, Amadeus kind of painted a huge target on their back just a second ago, and as such has been slaughtered every single chance, but you're trading 1 for 5 almost every single time.
No chance here for Fatal Ambition, a complete sweep from InControl there. These flanks continue to impress me, Goremizer. What I've seen from this Androxus today has been awesome. Mika not piloting at this time, instead on the Leon. A little bit of further backline confirmable damage. Amadeus, though, this game 6-4 and 3, but has pulled a lot of the killing weight here up to this point, the highest amount of kills affected on his team. I think King Kaiser is well on this buck. Found some strong presences that I think have really given InControl the edge. Really, Splitstone Gore was the first time we've maybe seen as close of a flank battle as we've seen. But at least through 2 points here on Fish Market, InControl Nation have got to be happy with what they've seen from their own.
And it's something to be said. I mean, we just saw Headed and not PS1 bring in Lex and this Victor, and we've seen them play it in the past. Again, crazy amounts of success. But I think what you're running into here is Andro maybe in a more natural habitat, a lot more cover, as well as interesting paths and avenues to maybe dash around and find those angles. But, you're trying to dodge maybe Andro from the left. Perpendicular shots are flying in from the Leon. Like, they're holding angles that are just making it difficult for you to be able to withstand the onslaught. Even there, yeah, you dodge out Amadeus, but you're in Ice Monkey's view.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect moment now where we can start to look at really the true value that someone like this Androxus brings. The sudden shift over to the left-hand side, or maybe the right-hand side from Fatal Ambition's perspective, is finally going to force out the Dread Serpent, but you're losing the fight elsewhere. Groundford is going to receive a little bit of healing here, not enough cauterize to fully slow down that Inara just yet. A Seismic Crash stuns down Ice Monkey on the back foot, but no kill to be had just yet. Now it's King Kaiser's turn to get his moment in the spotlight as he is absolutely swinging away the damage. Headed is going to turn some of it around. Enlightenment connects over onto the boxes. Groundford stays alive somehow through it all. And Immortal is now forced out from InControl as Ice Monkey slows down the Fatal Ambition front line. But Amadeus back from base, back to his killing ways. It's a double kill from Mika, and that might just be the icing on the cake for InControl's third point.
Ice Monkey has had phenomenal timing with his shields. It was one of those things, if it comes up slightly too early and you get stunned or anything like that from Fatal Ambition, that shield means nothing. It's on cooldown. Granted, you are running low cooldown, so you're not too stressed about it. But I think just being able to bring it out at these moments where it has been impactful has been phenomenal for this Fernando. Part of the reason it was successful last map, but even more so this map, I think showcasing how strong he can be in the right hands.
I'm loving what I'm seeing from InControl here, especially on Fish Market. They brush off some of their 7-point games, and now an opportunity to win it all here on Fish Market. 3-0. Fatal Ambition going to have to pull the full 4-point turnaround if they're going to get it done here. Entropic Breach is just going to be used to save Ice Monkey's life here, and on Fish Market, somewhat longer map. Maybe worthwhile ultimate to be used there. King Kaiser's plugged down Groundford for about half of his HP. It's a barrage from the backline. Fatal Ambition selling out a few of those ultimate score just to keep this cart where it's at. And they've at least done that, but now you got to be concerned about exactly this. InControl Nation finding an opening pick. A Seismic Crash falls into the backline. Amadeus sees an opening, but thinks twice about diving into 3 damage dealers and will slow this one down.
I mean, they're good shots. King Kaiser once again making sure that he is felt in terms of these shots and his damage. And you aren't even trading 1 for 5 anymore. Now you're just picking up 5 blatantly.
That might just be it. InControl Nation, it's a full sweep now. Fatal Ambition all back and respawning. And the dismounts are going to be here from InControl Nation. It's going to be a miraculous turnaround if Fatal Ambition are able to get it done. They are not. We go back-to-back 7-point games. But ultimately, in Game 3, InControl Nation take it 4-0.
And I think first off, they pick a good map for it. And unfortunately, they didn't pick that map. It's loser's pick when you go into Game 3s. And so that was Fatal Ambition's choice. and things just got out of hand. But, this actually relates to set 1 in a very similar way. Chromaspace has some similar issues that I'm seeing out of Fatal Ambition, and it does seem to be draft-wise. Although Chromaspace was kind of blatantly ignoring some of the top-tier picks, you're still getting your Victors, your Anaras, but you're pairing them up with things that maybe aren't going to be the best of the best in your role. I didn't get to see a lot out of this Cassie that made me think that she was worthwhile, and when you look down at it, 1 and 8 for RC Soldier, didn't really have a good game. But Headed didn't really get his feet in the ground either. The most consistent performer for Fatal Ambition all day was Groundford, very solid all 3 games. But at the end of the day, I think it's just what you're surrounding him with. Good healing from Rubson, good Dread Serpents from Rubson, even though that one at the very end of the game didn't quite go where you wanted it. It's the DPS picks maybe not lining up perfectly with the players that are piloting them that is causing Fatal Ambition the losses that they're getting here.
Well, here are your updated standings after this one. InControl, of course, with 1 game in hand now over Carnage Gaming, will take that leap up to 2nd place, just 1 out of 1st. If Parallax somehow end up dropping a game, it'll put InControl in a perfect spot to maybe take that leap over. Carnage Gaming are going to be the ones taking on Parallax. We'll be showing that one a little bit tomorrow. North America Gore up right after a quick break we'll have here in a moment. Pickled Pepper versus Team Prolific. Who do you like in that matchup?
I'm going to keep voting on Pickled Pepper. I've got a green background, too. I didn't even realize it, but you know what? Just vote for this. I think Pickled Pepper right now have been doing pretty well in North America and seem consistent enough that you can continue to hedge your bets on them. I like what they've been bringing to the table. I like the way that they're kind of tackling Phase 2 as well. And honestly, as much as I think Prolific is going to give them a tough fight, I think it's going to come up green.
Yeah, Pickled Pepper versus Team Prolific. A fun one to watch over in North America. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right into that set.
Some things in life are too simple. Some things in life are too simple. I don't really want to drive home, but as soon as I arrive home, yeah, I moved on. Some things in life are too simple. 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 Too simple.